Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to give people just a few minutes to allow people some time to get connected, and we're going to get started in just a moment. Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to our Cloud Developer Tools series. This is a new series that I've recently put together to help all of you newcomers to tech and developers of all shapes and sizes to focus on the tools that are really important to you. So being able to get your applications up and running and deployed somewhere where they have a home, They can live happily ever after, and you don't have to worry about it. Authentication, taking care of all of your OAuth and authentication needs for your application without having to wrestle with CORS issues. And lastly, but definitely not least, focusing on creating RESTful routes for your application and managing all of your API needs. So this is the first part of our series. So if you enjoyed today, I recommend you register for part 2 and part 3 of the series. It will be the same time next week and the following after. I'll post some information about those later. So today we're going to focus on an introduction to the IBM Cloud CLI, getting you set up on the IBM Cloud, and doing a little introduction to getting your projects up and running quickly and deployed to the cloud. There we go. So will we have access to the slides? Yes, you will have access to the slides from this link right here. If you scroll to the very top of the chat, the links are available for you as well there. I will post them at the very end as well, so that they're all in one place, so you can access them all. But if you look at the scroll to the very top in the chat, what I have there for you is the IBM Cloud sign-up link, the event slides link, the link to the live stream recording, which is going to be at the same link you joined with today. And yes, this event is being recorded, and the recording will be available immediately following this event, and you'll be able to access it again at the link provided here, which is the link that you all are currently joining with now. I also have a link here to IBM Developer Austin. So if you would like to check out some more events that we have coming up, I recommend you checking out the meetup group. We're going to be posting some great Hacktoberfest events coming up in the next few weeks here. So this link on the slide right now, on the slides right now, coincidentally, is the URL to the slides. This is also the link to the Crowdcast live stream recording that I've posted here for you as well. And this is the link to sign up for an IBM Cloud account. Now, if you look at the bottom of the window, you'll see a button that says IBM Cloud Sign Up. So if you're not already familiar, if you don't already have an IBM Cloud account, you can click on the button at the bottom of the screen that says IBM Cloud Sign Up, and that will take you to create an IBM Cloud account. If you do already have an IBM Cloud account, or you're not interested in creating a free account at this time, that's okay. We do use this button for registration purposes. So if you wouldn't mind just giving it a click, that will allow us to count you for registration purposes. So if you would like, no pressure. We're all in each other's developer tech space community now. I'd like us all to get to know each other a little bit better. So if you would like to share in the chat, go ahead and share your name and pronouns, your title, which company or program possibly you're with, where you're from, or possibly where you're joining from, since we're all quarantined for COVID. Something you love, and then a quirk. So something that's uniquely weird or different about you. So you're probably wondering who's been talking at me for the last 5 minutes. So let me go ahead and introduce myself and give you kind of an example of the flow. So my name is Jenna. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a developer advocate at IBM. I'm a coding bootcamp graduate. I attended Dev Bootcamp in 2017. Something I love is something I love is a really great tutorial. Really small, bite-sized pieces. I really love a great tutorial, something that I can work through without having any prior knowledge and being able to get something functioning at the end of it. Is something I really love. A quirk. So something that's weird and unique to me. I've been trying to change it up a little bit, but I think there's some new people here, so I'm just going to go with Old Faithful. So I have a weird obsession with tuna, tuna salad and tuna melts. So I have to order them at any restaurant that has them. If it's on the menu, there's really no other way I can go. I have to order it, and if it's really bad, I judge all of the food on the menu and probably won't go back to that restaurant. If a restaurant can't put the right amount of love and care to make tuna taste good, which isn't very hard, question how much love they're putting into the rest of their food. So that's a little bit about me. If you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat, tuna melts are delicious, Sherry. They are fantastic. Highly recommend. Just don't eat too much. I wouldn't want you to get mercury poisoning. I probably eat far more than the recommended amount. So a few things that I'd like to introduce to all of you while we get started here. One of them is the new and improved IBM Cloud Essentials V2 badge. Now, if any of you have maybe seen on people's profiles on LinkedIn, you've probably seen some badges or some certifications. We have courses that are available to you for free online through Acclaim. This is one of them. This is kind of the cloud foundations, I would say. And it is a digital credential, and it doesn't have an expiration date. So if you're interested in learning more about cloud technologies and IBM Cloud and building with that specifically, I would highly recommend this badge. You can connect to it with the link at the bottom of the slide. I'll also be sharing these in the chat as well. The next badge I want to introduce to you, and I'll be sharing these as well as we work through the next 3 weeks in the series. We'll kind of be touching on most of these, most of the information in these badges. So let me just share with you here. So the next badge I want to share with all of you is the IBM Cloud Development Essentials badge. So this is the Cloud Application Development Essentials badge. So if you're a developer, you're looking to develop with cloud technologies and build applications, this is a really great badge. I've worked through these credentials as well. I thought the courses were really great. I just posted the links to them in the chat if you want to check them out. And then the last badge I'd like to share with you here is the Applied Cloud Development badge. So this has a little more hands-on building cloud applications on IBM Cloud, specifically focused on building cloud-native applications on IBM Cloud. Highly recommend. They're really great. And again, these are badges that you can display on your LinkedIn or any profiles that you have anywhere and really give you a good foundational understanding to IBM Cloud development, application development, and Cloud Essentials. So if you haven't already, I would like to encourage you to sign up for an IBM Cloud account if you would like to follow along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through while you're all taking a moment to sign up for an IBM Cloud account or sign into your IBM Cloud account, just kind of talk about what we're going to do today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some slides that I've put together for you that kind of walk through the process of getting up and running quickly on IBM Cloud, getting a project spun up, but also taking a project that you already have and deploying that to IBM Cloud as well. So I'm going to walk you through this process. We're going to go through it, and then I'm going to pull up my terminal screen, and we'll do some live coding. Everyone cross their fingers that the demo gods are in my favor. Today, they were not in my favor for the blockchain workshop last week, but I think I was eating up all the bandwidth. So if you don't have an account, you will create an IBM Cloud free light tier account. So it is free to use. And this is what the create an account screen looks like. So you know you're in the right place. So you'll be able to develop for free. You don't need to add a credit card or anything to get started. And you'll be able to use over 40 light plan services that will never have any cost to you at any point. You can also upgrade your account at whatever points. Maybe you're doing another workshop that requires you to you want to play around with it more post the workshop and do more work. You can do that. You can upgrade your account and unlock almost around 200 unique offerings, plus get a credit to use with any of the offerings so that you can try them out. We also have a lot of free 30-day trials on things so that you can try out services and see what they feel like first. So let's go ahead and get started. Anyone have any questions at this point that I can answer for you before we go ahead and jump in? If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat or there's also an ask a question section that we can answer your questions there as well. So feel free at any point in time to ask a question. We have support here to help you. So the very first thing that you'll need to do is to install the IBM Developer Tools CLI. So that's kind of the name for today, right? So you're going to install a set of IBM Cloud Developer Tools that include the latest IBM Cloud CLI. So some of you are maybe like, what's a CLI? So that's just fancy for command line interface. So these are the commands that you're going to be typing in your terminal that are going to do all of the magic to spin up your application, deploy it to IBM Cloud, handle any tool chains that you may have. You also are going to log into your account through the command line as well. So I really want to get, for anyone who's more comfortable clicking around, I really want to get you all comfortable with working from the command line. If anyone out there is not a fan, I promise you, you'll feel a lot differently once you see how quick and easy you can get things spun up from the command line as opposed to finding things in the IBM Cloud resources and clicking on them. So what we're going to do here is we're going to install the IBM Developer Tools CLI. Then we want to verify the installation and configure our environment. So the IBM Cloud Developer Tools offers a command line interface for creating, developing, and deploying cloud applications to IBM Cloud. So one thing that I would like to mention that you will see when you add your first project, or I'll say once we configure your environment, that you will see is that the IBM Cloud CLI no longer bundles the Cloud Foundry CLI by default. So you will need to run the Cloud Foundry commands via the IBM Cloud CLI to install the Cloud Foundry CLI by running IBM Cloud CF install. We will be going through and doing this as well in just a moment. But so first we have here, we're going to, I hope you all can see it. Let me make sure. It might be, so it's, oh no, you can see it. I thought it might have been cut off a little bit on my screen, but I think you have it. So we're going to run for Mac and Linux, we're going to run the curl command. For Windows 10, we have the following command to run as administrator. And then to verify the installation, you're just going to run you're just going to run IBM Cloud Dev Help. So when you run IBM Cloud Dev Help, you should see the commands come up within your terminal screen. So once you've verified that you've installed the IBM Cloud Tools CLI, you're going to want to log into your IBM Cloud account. So you're going to want to run the command IBM Cloud login. So you'll put in your email for your IBM Cloud account and your password. If you plan to access Cloud Foundry services, you'll need to specify a Cloud Foundry org and space. And again, you'll need to make sure that you have the Cloud Foundry CLI installed, which I'll show you when we run through this as well. It's, sorry, let me just put this in here. There we go. So it didn't get updated in here for some reason. So to run, I just posted it, IBM Cloud CF install. And then you'll be able to run this IBM Cloud target --CF so that you can access Cloud Foundry services and specify a Cloud Foundry organ space. So otherwise, if you know which organ space that the service belongs to, you can also use the following command, IBM Cloud target -O, and you'll add the value -S there and another value for the organization and the space there. So the next step. So for reference, you're probably wondering, what's all the stuff that I'm installing on my computer? So the installation command in this tutorial is going to install the latest standalone IBM Cloud CLI version available. It's also going to install for you Homebrew on Macs only, Git, Docker, Helm, Kubectl, curl on Linux only. And then it's also going to install for you our IBM Cloud Functions plugin, our IBM Cloud Object Storage plugin, the IBM Cloud Container Registry plugin, and the IBM Cloud Kubernetes Service plugin, which is going to be very, very helpful a little later. So let's go ahead and build something. So these are kind of the two options we have on our journey here. So we can either create an app from a starter kit, or we can create an app from your own code. So if you have a local app that you want to get deployed quickly to your IBM Cloud account, which again is free, so this is a great way to get projects you have deployed somewhere in live where people can see them for free. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take a look at how to create an app from a starter kit. And then we'll go back and look at creating an app, deploying an app from a local project on your computer. So the first thing we're going to do is create an app from a starter kit. So wherever your preferred space in your directory is, you can run the following command. So if you want to nest it in a folder or put it somewhere else, that's totally fine. Here. I'm not, so let's see. Do we need to install the plugin? No, so there's no plugins that you need to install. Those plugins are installed when you run the IBM Tools CLI curl command to install it. So all of that, you don't have to install anything in addition to go back. So let me just go back here. There we go. So basically, so far we have this, and we have this. So you've installed the IBM Cloud. Oops. Just delete this. Sorry, I'm just trying to post these here for you guys. And then, okay. So the only thing we should be installing at this point is the Developer Tools CLI and the Cloud Foundry CLI. Those are going to install all of those plugins that I showed you here. So that's automatically going to also install these plugins for you. So you don't have to do that. So let's create an app from a starter kit. So you'll run the command IBM Cloud Dev Create. There we go. And then you'll get two options. So you'll need to select an application type of either backend service web app or a mobile application. I tend to build more web apps than mobile. So I would select number 1. And then you'll get to select a language. So there's a lot of options here to choose from. So we have Go, Java, we have Java Spring, we have Node, we have Python Django and Python Flask, and we also have Swift. So again, you can build, you can deploy applications to IBM Cloud of any language. It doesn't need to be one of the 7 listed here. These are just the starter kits that we have. So you'll select a starter kit to use as the basis for your application, and then you're going to enter a name for your app. So you'll have a few options. You can, normally I just put in the same name that it says. Usually it says Python Django app, so I'll just call it Python Django app, but you can call it anything you want. And then you can also select the resource group that you want to use if you would like. You have the option to select a service to add to your application, but that's a little more advanced. It's not something you need to do to get your application up and running. So the next step, and this has also been updated a bit since we ran this workshop last time. So you'll be able to select a deployment option. So let me just go down here. Okay, so you'll be able to select a deployment option. So if you want to deploy the app automatically, you'll want to select a DevOps option, which we have 4 options here. Otherwise, you can select the manual deployment option. So the options we have here is you can deploy. Now we have the ability to deploy to native-based Kubernetes containers. We can deploy to Helm-based Kubernetes containers. We can also deploy to Helm-based Red Hat OpenShift containers, which is new and very, very nice, very quick and easy. And then, of course, we have the option to deploy to Cloud Foundry build packs, which you'll now be able to do since you've installed the Cloud Foundry CLI as well. So our next step here. Let's see. So if you selected a DevOps deployment option, you're going to want to follow the remaining prompts and select a region for your tool chain. You're also going to want to enter a name for the DevOps tool chain and enter a host name. Otherwise, you can follow the prompts for a manual deployment. So you'll be able to, so these are the options for manual deployment. So you can deploy to Cloud Foundry build packs, which I'll show you in just a bit. you can deploy to, and this is manual deployment, you can deploy to Helm-based Kubernetes containers, and you can also deploy to native-based Kubernetes containers. So those are going to be your K8s, K8 natives containers. There we go. So you may need to set up SSH keys to complete this step. If you set up a passphrase for your SSH key, you're required to enter this code. So we'll walk through that when we get to the live coding portion here. So the other option, if you remember the two options we had at the beginning, we had the option to start from a we don't have Windows 10 Pro. Yeah, let us look into that. Yeah, so Evan's gonna help you out there with that, making sure that you can get that installed on. So the just for reference, the curl command that I sent, that's for Linux and Mac, if that helps. The other command is for Windows. So let's get back here. So now what we're going to do is create an app from your own code. So I have a simple application here to help show you how to get your local app deployed. So we will work through that as well. So if you don't have a project locally but you would like to see how to manually deploy a local application to IBM Cloud, we will walk through how to do that as well. So creating an app from your own code. So if you would like to use the template application, you can run the following command, and again, the directory of your choice, and you'll be able to clone the Hello World sample app. So you'll run git clone, and then this git repo here. And this will be your local project. All right. Got some stuff running slow over here. Okay. So the next thing you're going to want to do within your local application, so when you have an application locally, you want to deploy it to your IBM Cloud account. So first you need to connect it, right? So right now, if you've worked through the following steps, you've installed the IBM Cloud Tools CLI, you've installed the Cloud Foundry CLI, and you've logged into your IBM Cloud account, right? So you're now connected to your IBM Cloud account. So if you run the following command inside your application, so inside the directory of your Hello World application or whatever local application you'd like to deploy, if you run IBM Cloud Dev Enable, here, you're going to be able to enable the cloud tools within your project. So this command is still in beta, and it's only going to work for the following programming languages. So we have Liberty Java, we have Java Spring, Node, Python, Django, Swift, and Go. Let's see. So running IBM Cloud Dev Enable is going to add your IBM Cloud files to an existing application. So if you create a new project with the tool chain as a deploy option, it's going to push to a GitHub repo. Otherwise, it's not going to, and you don't need to push it to a repo. You can just work off your file system. So where enable comes in is when you're not using our create, but already have a project that's in your that's on your file system. Maybe that you clone from a repo. Enable just creates an application in IBM Cloud for you, like Create also does. So you never have to use them both in one application. So you'll use either Create or Enable, but you won't ever use them both. So this is why the docs present two options. create from a starter kit or start with your own project. So create from a starter kit is IBM Dev Create, and start with your own project is IBM Cloud Dev Enable. So create is going to put your application on your file system, but also creates a record in IBM Cloud. Without selecting the toolchain option, you can manually run IBM Cloud Dev Deploy command. If you've chosen to deploy a toolchain, then you can commit and push your Git repo, and the toolchain will pick up those changes from the Git repo and deploy them. So you don't have to worry about manual deployment. Any changes that you make and push to your repo will automatically be deployed to your application. Let me just check and make sure. Any questions? Okay, good. Okay. All right. Okay. So how to create an app with manual deployment. So we're going to create an app from a starter kit and opt out of the automatic deployment options using any of the tool chains. So creating an app from a starter kit, we're going to run IBM Cloud Dev Create. And then we're going to select an application type of either backend, web app, or mobile app, just like we did before. And we're going to select a language. And then here, so to use IBM Cloud, we need to generate the cloud enablement and deployment assets and optionally connect to an IBM Cloud application. So it'll ask you to create a new IBM Cloud application and connect to it, or you can choose one of your applications. So I have a local Python Django application that I created. This is the IBM Cloud application that was created when I enabled the tool chain in my application. So I would select two. So to connect to your IBM Cloud application, I would select the second option here, selecting my Python Django app from my IBM Cloud applications. And then if you want to create a tool chain or manage an existing one, from inside your project, if you run IBM Cloud Dev Console, you'll be able to access your console. And again, I'll be able to show you this as well when we run through it. But you're going to be able to go into your application within your IBM Cloud account, and you'll be able to download any code. You'll be able to see when it was created, any target deployments. You'll be able to add any services, connect existing services, or create new services. It shows you how to configure your app, and building, running, and deploying your app locally, and also allows you to configure continuous delivery for your application. So we'll take a look at that in just a minute. So the next step is, so what did we just do? So we selected a starter kit to use as the basis for our application. We entered the name for our app and selected the resource group that you want to use. And then also you can select a service to add, which is optional. And we'll take a look at what services we can add when we walk through and create our application. So just a few important notes before we go into building and deploying our application. So now that we've set up the Cloud Foundry tool chain, when you commit to the repo, the tool chain is going to kick off those changes and deploy automatically. So you want to make sure you're in your application before running any of the following setup commands. So IBM Cloud Dev Edit allows you to make changes to an existing application. It allows you to set up access to the tool chain if you haven't already. When you select option 1 from here, it launches you into the tool chain in your IBM Cloud account. And if you make changes to your application, you'll see this kick off automatically in the delivery pipeline view. So you can also view these changes in your application in your browser. And IBM Cloud Dev View is going to open up your deployed application in your browser automatically. So once you deploy this thing, you're like, where did it go, right? So if you can go to the IBM Cloud help to view the commands. But if you run IBM Cloud Dev, everything is IBM Cloud Dev and then something. Create, enable, edit, console, right? So if you want to view your application in the browser so you can see where it's at, where it's deployed to, you can just run IBM Cloud Dev View. So a few important notes. If you've already created an IBM Cloud app by using the console, you can follow steps 2 through 5, which I have. Oops, sorry. I need to move this. My slide got out of order here. I have steps here to follow in your app directory. To manually configure toolchain deployment options, I have a link here for setting up a DevOps pipeline for your app to deploy to a cluster. Okay, so if you're looking to do some Kubernetes deployment or K's native, tutorial can be useful if you're trying to configure CI/CD toolchain for more than one interrelated web app or microservices. And lastly, if your existing code base isn't already in a Git repository, you can follow, again, the steps. The slide got moved. I'll put it back for you. You can select the option to create a new IBM Cloud app and deploy it to a DevOps toolchain. So let me just move this for you. Okay, here we go. Okay. So now that we've created an application, we want to build it and be able to run it locally. So let me just take a peek, see if we have any questions right now. Does anyone have any questions at this point that I can answer before we go into building and deploying your application? What does the IBM Cloud view? So the IBM Cloud. Let's see. What was the IBM Cloud view. So this is going to open up in your console. I'm going to walk through and live code it so you guys can see. It's going to open up the actual within your IBM Cloud account, within the IBM Cloud portal. It's going to open up so you have a browser view of everything connected to your application. Yes, it's going to open up in your console. Yes. So we want to build our application now and run it locally. So we're going to navigate back to our app directory, which we're probably already in, and ensure that Docker is running on your system. So if you run the IBM Cloud Dev Build command to build your application, and then you can also run IBM Cloud Dev Build with the debugger. We'll show you any issues that you might be having. Here, there we go. So first, you're going to compile your application. So IBM Cloud Dev Build is going to compile your application. Then you're going to run the following command in your current app directory to start your application. So then you're going to run IBM Cloud Dev Run. To exit the session, this is always a tricky thing. I always get stuck places and I'm like, do I push delete? Do I push exit? Do I put a 0? What's the thing? So to exit your session, you'll use Control-C. And to view your application that's running locally, you can navigate to localhost 3000 or a similar URL. So, pro tip, you can also use compound commands. So if you need to build and run your application, or you have a few things that you need to do in succession, you can run the command IBM Cloud Dev build / run to sequentially start a build followed by a run. So it'll run the build first, and then when it's done, it will run your application. So let's deploy your application. So we're going to deploy our app using the tool chain. So we're going to run the following command in the directory of our choice. So we're going to run IBM Cloud Dev View, and that's going to open up in the console. So if we want to deploy our application manually, we can run the IBM Cloud Dev Deploy command. So for Cloud Foundry, that's going to be IBM Cloud Dev Deploy. For Kubernetes, that's going to be IBM Cloud Dev Deploy -T and our container. So if you want to deploy your app to a different manual deployment type, we're going to run IBM Cloud Dev Edit from our app directory and add the other deployment files. So we can always go back, and I'll show you this in just a minute. We can always go back and edit our options in our application as well. So your app should be live. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back. We're going to go back. I'm going to get my terminal open, and we're going to run through. Sorry, there we go. Let's see. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up a terminal screen. We're going to run through some of this stuff. Browser. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at IBM Cloud. So you all signed up or already have an account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to cloud.ibm.com. And this is what you should see. So it'll take you to your dashboard. So we'll take a look at what all this means. So here's my account here. We have our dashboard, our resource summary. So this shows that I'm running 2 Cloud Foundry services. Any other services, I have 1 storage provisioned and 2 applications. So if you click here as well on your resource list, you can see a list of all of any service, cloud services that you're using. Sorry, my dog is barking. Okay. So I have a continuous delivery service here. I have 2 mobile applications provisioned. I have a Watson Studio instance provisioned and some cloud storage for that. I have my cloud object storage here. So first thing, let me get my terminal screen, and we'll start from scratch here. Oops. Move this over. Okay. So make this a little bigger. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do Do any of you remember what we're going to do first? I already have this stuff installed, but I'm going to show you. So the first thing we're going to do is install the Cloud Developer Tools CLI. We'll run that. Yes, Evan, we all know that you know what to do next. Let me make this text a little bigger for you, hopefully. Let's see. I think that's good. Oh, I think it's a little too wide. I'm looking at the screen here, trying to make sure the font is big enough. Okay, this looks good. So then I'm going to install the Cloud Foundry CLI, the IBM Cloud. So I already have it installed, so it's giving me this little message here. The next thing I'm going to do is sign into my IBM Cloud account, right? So let me just sign in here. I am using my personal cloud account so that you can all see how this actually works with a regular person's account, not anything fancy or special. So as you can see right now, the API endpoint is cloud.ibm.com. The region is US South. So I've already logged in and set up my account before, but I chose the US South region. It shows my email as the user, my account, resource group. So I don't have a targeted resource group, but it shows me how I can set one if I would like. Cloud Foundry API endpoint, we don't have one yet, and an Organist space, we don't have either. So the next thing I want to do is I just want to make sure and verify that things are installed, right? So I'm going to run IBM Cloud Dev Help. Oops, there you go. So this shows me a list of commands. So we have DevOps commands, we have app commands, and it tells you what each one does. So deploy deploys an application, edit, add or remove services for your application. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I can assign a resource group if I'd like. So let me go ahead and do that. Let me IBM Cloud. Move my mouse a little. Resource groups. So I can take a look at what resource groups I have available. So the only resource groups I have available is my default. So what I can do is I can run IBM Cloud target -G, like it showed me IBM Cloud target -G, and then the name of the resource group. So I'm going to run IBM Cloud target -G, and the name of my resource group, which is default. So now we can see I have a default, a resource group assigned to my application. It's just the default. Now the next thing I want to do is specify a Cloud Foundry org and space. So I'm just going to run IBM Cloud target --CF. Okay, so now we have a Cloud Foundry API endpoint, an org, and the space is dev. So everything we've just done is setting up our environment for creating a new application. Let me just look over at the chat here and see if we have any. Perfect. So, so our API endpoint is where our application is living. So this is on the back end where our application is pulling data from to display in the web browser. My battery is low. Give me just a second. Let me plug this in. I don't want things to die. Is there a resource group that shows a diagram of an API endpoint? No, but you know what? I could show one. So, that's a good, that's some good feedback. I will make sure that I include as well some more information. So, for instance, if you are making, this is if you're making SOAP calls. So it's where you're making your, your CRUD route, so your RESTful API. It's where you're making your API calls to get data. Backend, yes, where the application is pulling data from. If you'll just give me one quick second, I want to get my plug here so that my computer doesn't die on all of us. So be patient with me for just one moment. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. Whew. Thank you so much for your patience there. Have a full house here, so I'm constantly having to move around. Okay. So where were we? Terminal. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So let's see. So what happens if it's not recognized as a command in the terminal? Let's try. Let's try IBM. Let me just try IBM Cloud Help. Command not found. Let's try IBM Cloud Thing. Thing is not a registered command. See IBM Help. So what it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, we don't know what this command is, but here's a whole list of commands that you can run that you can check out from IBM Cloud Help. So all of these up here. And it'll direct you how to do that. It'll say, hey, type in this command so you can get you some help. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create an application. So we're going to run IBM Cloud Dev. Anyone remember what I need to run here? Any hints? Want to create an application? I'm going to run IBM Cloud Dev Create. Yes. Okay. So we're going to start seeing some of the prompts that we looked at before. So I typically select a backend service web application. So if you're building anything for a computer, you're probably going to want to choose a web application. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to build out a database or a complex backend. It's just the two options are a backend service or a web app, and then a mobile app. So I'm going to pick one. We're going to build a web app. And I'm going to choose a Python Flask app. That language, okay. So my app service is going to be the Python Flask app. Okay. Just going to verify that's what I want to do. Enter a name. So I'm just going to call it Python Flask app. IBM Dev create in a particular folder? No. So you can do this in any directory that you would like to put your application in. You can also move your application around later too if you end up reorganizing your stuff and wanting to put it somewhere else. Okay, do you want to select a service? So we're using, it tells us that we're using our resource group defaults for this application. Now we've already configured our environment. So we already have our Cloud Foundry services set up for deployment. So we'll look at what extra services we can add later. So select from the following DevOps toolchain and target runtime and environment options. So I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to continue with manual deployment so I can show you how we can deploy from the command line. And then let's see, select from the manual deployment. So I set up Cloud Foundry, so we're going to deploy to Cloud Foundry build packs. So now it is magically creating my application for me. I'll just give it a minute to finish. So cross our fingers. There we go. So the app, Python Flask app, has been successfully saved in the current directory. So let's just take a look. Cool, we have our Python Flask app here. So let's see. So the next thing I'm going to do is create an SSH key to set up the tool chain. I don't have this in the best place in the slides. I'm going to maybe move it around. I have it at the very beginning, actually. So let me just show you how to do this. So we go here. So I'm going to create an SSH key to set up the tool chain. I should already have one. But if you don't have one, this is the link that you would go to. So I want to show you that. I will make it clear in the slides. I didn't realize that this was not in the most intuitive spot. But if you see here, I have an SSH key here. So if you don't have an SSH key, it'll tell you that you need to generate one. So what I did here is you can add, if you don't already have one, you can add a key. I already have one here. It never expires. This one I created 5 months ago. So you really only need to create it once and you'll be good to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is initialize a local repository. So you might be thinking, whoa, whoa, whoa. We just created this Python Flask app. What are we doing? So we created a Python Flask app within our IBM Cloud application services. So within our IBM Cloud account, we created a Python Flask app. However, locally, here we go. Locally, we need to create a copy of this application, right? So I'm going to initialize a local repository. We go here. We need to initialize locally our project that we just created in our cloud account. So I'm going to run git clone. This is where my application lives. So I'm going to git clone this. Oops. Let's see. I think I have an error in my thing here. Git clone. Let's try this. Okay. So reference. Let's see. Let's see what I did here. Let's see something. Okay, well, let's see here. Sorry, just one moment. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna go into my I'm already here. Okay, so let me run my IBM Cloud Dev edit. Version, so, YAML file. All right. Just do a little troubleshooting here. Let's see. So about this, just be patient for just one moment. All right, let me take a look at my and it should work for my Python Flask app. Let's see. Okay, so let's try this. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Okay. JK. I think I wasn't in the directory, right? Okay. So let's take a look. When we're talking about being able to see things in the console. So let's take a look at number 2. Let's manage our services. I'll go back here. While that's working, so that's looking up services on IBM Cloud. Okay, so edit application services. So I can take a look here and look at other application services that I have provisioned, and I can edit them, or I can take 0 to go to the previous screen. So I'm going to just go back here. So one thing that I want to do is let's create our manual deployment files. So I'm going to, I already selected this before, deploy to Cloud Foundry build packs. Let me just make sure that my deployment files are where they should be. All right. Okay, cool. Select a type of resource to edit. So I'm going to go back. I don't need to edit anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to exit. I'm going to build and deploy my application. So does anyone remember how to do that? So what we're going to do is we're going to IBM Cloud Dev. Yep, I'm going to dev build. What do you think my error is here? It's like, this failed. What's going on? So remember, we need to have Docker running in the background. So I'm restarting Docker now. Okay. But it'll give you the actual error. So it'll say, we're having an issue building the Docker image. So let me run this again now that I have Docker running. Maybe it's not done building. Let's give it just a second. I had to restart it. Oh, there we go. Remember to log into your Docker account as well. There we go. It's finished. So now my Docker is up and running. So if you can see here, it's executing Docker image build. Wait for that to finish. So just a minute. All right. Okay, perfect. Now, I'm going to run IBM Cloud Dev Run. Okay. All right. Should be able to see when this is done. Local host 2000. Hey, check that out. So this is what you'll see from the starter kit. So our application that we just built for IBM Cloud is live. It's deployed. Well, I'm sorry, it's not deployed. It's running locally right now at localhost. But you can see that it's working. This is the application. Which is pretty nice. It has the here for you to install the developer tools. If you haven't, you can train a model with IBM Watson Studio, which we're going to run our IBM Watson class series again in November. So look out for that. That'll be fun. We'll do that one again. You can visit IBM Cloud App Services, ask questions on Slack. Okay, so let's go back to our application. Okay, so go back here. Okay, remember when we mentioned to exit the session, you can run Control-C. So we're running, when we IBM Cloud Dev Run, that's running our app locally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control-C. Shut down this Docker container here. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy my application to IBM Cloud. So we had our application running locally at localhost 3000 or any of your local local URLs you like to deploy to. So So we can deploy our app using the tool chain like we looked at. So let's do IBM Cloud Dev View. Select a deployment type. Let's do a build pack. In our directory. Oh, is it too small? Let me make it a little bigger. A little bigger for you. There we go. Better? Okay. Perfect. Okay. So remember, with this application, we're deploying manually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run. We didn't set up our tool chain. I just remembered that for this project. We're going to run IBM Cloud Dev Deploy. So deploy my application to IBM Cloud. Ready, go, magic. Press enter. Host name for this application will be Python Flask app. So it's going to default to whatever the name, whatever name you named your application. So it's nice. I would say don't change your application name after you deploy. So it'll be easier for you to, I guess, keep track of on both sides, locally and within your IBM Cloud account. Okay. So let it do its thing. All right. Finishing up here, looking good. Lots of stuff happening. I don't know what's happening. All this stuff. It's running all kinds of scripts and installing all kinds of clients for your application. Any questions while we're waiting for this to finish? Oh, the other browser tabs. I will make them a little bigger when we go over there. I apologize. Waiting for app to start. So first of all, let me. There we go. Make this a little bigger. Okay. SSH keys. Oh yeah, this was pretty small. Okay. 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 So, ta-da! I wish I had a wand and a hat. Magic. So we can host our application. We can view our hosted application, excuse me, at this URL right here. So I'm going to just come here. This was our local application that I shut down so we could deploy it to IBM Cloud. Ta-da! So this is our yes, wand and hat, and like smoke and Sprinkles and glitter. So this is our deployed application. So yes. So this is our deployed application. So this is from a starter kit. And we've built the application quickly from our starter kit, and we've deployed it to our IBM Cloud account. And this could be anything. This is just starter data, you know, starter structure architecture here. So what I would like to do is IBM Cloud Dev View. So this opens up our application here. So if I were to close this, there we go. So running IBM Cloud Dev View shows where you can actually see your deployed application. Oh, yes, absolutely. So the question is, for the DevOps toolchain, can we use our own personal GitHub accounts instead of GitLab? Yes, we use GitHub for everything. So we had some projects, I guess some older portal projects that some of them were using GitLab, some of them were using Bitbucket. We all use GitHub for everything. So yes, use your GitHub. So if from the command line here, we run IBM Cloud Dev View. As you can see, it shows the URL of the hosted application. If you run the command here, it will actually, it's supposed to, supposed to open up our application. That's okay. That's okay. So we've deployed our app. One thing that I would like to show all of you, let me just go back and find my command for it. Oh, I know. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a second. IBM Cloud Dev Console. So we can, oh, okay, you know what it is? It's because this is my second window I have open. So if you're in your main window, that's why this is happening. When you run IBM Cloud Dev View, it will open it up in your browser. This will also open up in your browser, but it's because it's my second view. That's what's going on here. I figured it out. But well, okay, so we're going to view our app console. So let's just take a look at this. And this is our application. So this is our application that we have here. So as you can see here, actions, run locally, rename app. Let's choose run locally. Why not? So it tells you to run it in a local development container. Requires Docker, takes you to the documentation for that. As you can see here, the commands are IBM Cloud Dev Build, IBM Cloud Dev Run. To deploy, we run IBM Cloud Dev Deploy. So let me just want to make sure this is all IBM Cloud Dev Deploy. Which we've already done, but I just want to make sure. Well, that's finishing. Let's take a look here. So as you can see here, you're in your cloud account here. So what I would like to do, so I have not configured continuous delivery. So before I do that, I want to just take a look at what's going on here. So where it says here, app URL, you must deploy your app first. So I have not configured continuous delivery for my application. I just manually deployed it. So we want to enable continuous delivery to automate builds, tests, and deployments through delivery pipeline, GitLab, GitHub. I don't know why GitHub is not listed here. That makes no sense to me. But yes, absolutely, GitHub, 100%. Use it every single day since I've been at IBM. So I'm not sure why it's not on here. But to answer the question, yes, yes, and yes. So I manually deployed. So what is this doing? Configuring continuous delivery. What does this mean? This means that I have a project locally, right? And I have my project in IBM Cloud, right? But I haven't initialized this application and created it in GitHub, right? So like my code is only living locally right now. So what we want to do is deploy our application. We want to configure it for continuous delivery so that it lives in GitHub, right? And then anytime you make changes and you commit and push your changes to GitHub, what's going to happen is it's going to manually deploy to your application, your IBM Cloud deployed application here. So it's going to automatically, so a lot of times when you go in and make changes and you push them to your GitHub account, it doesn't automatically deploy your updates and changes. It waits for you to manually do that. So this is going to automatically, you know, if you have things, you know, your pull requests good to go and you're closing them out and merging everything into your master branch or develop, whatever branch you're deploying, it's going to automatically deploy that to your live application. So let's take a look here. So keep seeing this add services, right? So we can connect existing services. Let's look at creating a service. So what does this mean? A new service instance. So what are services that we can add? So we can add databases. So if you don't fancy creating your own database, you can add essential data services to your application. You can add instances of AI to enhance your application with IBM Watson. You can add analytics. You can add cloud storage to your application. If you saw on my other application, my IBM Watson experiment, I had some cloud storage provision for that. You can add your application to APIs. So you can add API integrations. You can add security and identity. So securing your application, we're going to take a look at this next week. Actually, let me do something before we finish here. What I would like to do is give you all, let me go here, here. Would highly, highly recommend, if you haven't attended this session before, would highly recommend, we're going to be talking about securing single page applications. Just a second. We're going to be talking about authentication. So what is authentication? What is OAuth? And taking a look at IBM's service for that, which is called App ID, which takes care of all of your OAuth and all your CORS issues and all of your stuff. So you know when you log in to an application and it says like log in with LinkedIn or log in with Google or GitHub or whatever. So IBM Cloud's App ID does that for you. So just how we're clicking and adding things here, the App ID is a cloud service from the catalog in here that you'll be able to add whatever kind of authentication you want to securely to your application. And IBM Cloud manages that for you. So if you're interested, here's the link to the event next week. So I just want to share that before we go further in case people need to get going for the evening, but I wanted to share. So we can connect IoT application data to our applications, web and mobile, different APIs. And you can also add a provision service, so any existing services you have as well. So now we know what that add a service thing was talking about. So now what I want to do is let's deploy my application. So now this is something, if you remember, we were doing this from the tool chain. Let me make this a little smaller. There we go. We were doing this from the command line in our terminal. So just so you can see an example, you can also do all of these things. If you're not a command line person, you can do all of these things from your IBM Cloud account, from within your resource list, within the details of your application. So let me just show you, back up a second. Resource list. Oh, look at this. I have Cloud Foundry services, and I have my Python Flask app. So I have my Cloud Foundry application right here. And when I click on it, I can get into more details, go into the application details. Okay, so we can select the deployment target, or we can configure the DevOps toolchain. So I'm going to click Cloud Foundry here, IBM Cloud API key. So let's generate a new key because I don't have one. API key for Python Flask app. That sounds good for me. Save this key in a secret store for reuse. Service name. I'm just going to name it the same thing as the application. Cool. So IBM Key Protect is creating a new API key for us. So you might be like, API keys and all this, like, what does all this mean? So I'm generating a new API key. So let's say I build an application that has some data and does some stuff. If someone else wants to connect to my application, like for instance, Google Maps is great, Mapbox is great, right? Let's say you want to utilize their API. You want to use their product. Like you're building a website and you want a map that shows, you know, where your store's location is. Let's say it's a website for business. You would need an API key to be able to utilize their product, their map, and put it within your application. And you need an API key to do that. So this is your IBM Cloud API key. So this is your key that would allow someone else to access your product. It also allows you to, looks like we have a number of instances here. We only have 1, 2, or 3. Memory allocation per instance. Oh, didn't like the name. Host 1. How about this? There we go. Okay, so we have our API key, DevOps tool chain name, Python Flask app, region Dallas. Okay, so we selected the deployment target. Now we're configuring the DevOps tool chain. Now it's configuring our continuous delivery for us. Ian, why does that say delivery pipeline or GitLab? I'm gonna have to give them some. Give some feedback here so we can update this. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna submit some feedback. Feel free to submit feedback. I see a lot of this feedback too because I work on some of this stuff. So we read the feedback. So if you have feedback, please give it to us. The more feedback is a gift. The more the merrier. Cool. So deployment automation, engaging Dallas tooling creation, status, no stages detected. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, we have our tools chain set up. Status. Pipeline. Oh, how likely are you? I'll give you an 8. No, I'm busy. I'm in the middle of a workshop. What is going on? Oy vey. Okay, let's add a stage here. So you can configure stages. You can, you have stage triggers here, so you can get repository. Yeah, see, I didn't add a Git repository to the tool chain, but you can see how you would do this. So if you want to add a Git repository to the tool chain, there's also configuring tool integrations, but it allows you to do this. Run jobs only when the stages run manually. You can also allow it to be run manually by all tool chain members as well. Let me just take a look and make sure. Let me go back. Lost my mouse. Okay. So your app is live. So congrats. Good job. I'm proud of you. So you can run IBM Cloud Dev View to view your application. You can also run the IBM Cloud Dev Console to access your application's details in your IBM Cloud Console. Congrats, super proud. Proud mama bear. Yeah, I mean, this stuff is, for some people it's new, for some people it's not new, but the implementation is, if you haven't done it before, it's always new. So give yourself a pat on the back if you've made it through. And thank you all so much for sticking with me. A few things that I want to, where'd it go? Reiterate, I shared in the very beginning. But again, I would highly, highly recommend. I have a little bit more information to share with you. I'm going to share, and then I'll be around for some questions. So here's the Dev Cloud Essentials V2 badge. The content with this stuff is really, really good. So I'd highly recommend. I also recommend taking notes while you're working through it. I've created a lot of technical documentation from working through these things. We have the Development Essentials. So this is for cloud application development. And then we also have the Applied Cloud Native Development badges. And they walk you through hands-on building, starting up projects with fundamentals to get started and then earning your badge. Go back here. Okay. So, oh, nope, this isn't right. Sorry. Delete that slide. So these are all the event resources again. I'm going to post them all for you again as well. So let me just go here to the very top. Okay, here we go. I don't know why it's, there we go. Okay. Perfect. So let me go down here. And perfect. Oh. Yes, there's a character limit. Okay. So now, just a posting again for you, the IBM Cloud sign up link, which again, you can push the button at the bottom of the window for that. Here's the link to the event slides, the live stream recording, and the IBM Cloud Meetup group. Here's some links to the certifications as well. I also have all of the information nice put together for you at the end here. So event resources, we have the cloud certifications here for you as well. And then some different ways for you to connect with IBM Cloud. So one thing I would like to do, there we go. Google Slides is very slow today for some reason. Interesting. Bear with me for just a second. There we go. That's good. Okay, perfect. So if you would like to see some more of what's going on at IBM Developer and some more events we have coming up this month for Preptember, getting ready for Hacktoberfest next month, planning some great content and some really cool events for that. And then November, we'll be doing some Watson machine learning series as well. But feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. You can also check out more content on my YouTube channel. So I just had a blockchain workshop last week, and we have some OpenShift workshops on there as well. So feel free to check things out. And you can also connect with and follow IBM Developer on social media. So this is our IBM Developer Austin meetup group. We also are on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. We have a lot of stuff going on Twitch. So if you're a Twitch person, this is the space for you. There's always stuff going on every day. Really great content. I would like to take some time to answer any questions you might have. So if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat or put them in the questions and answers. And for any of you that need to go, we're going to be just doing Q&A for the rest of the time. But I would just like to say thank you so much for coming out and showing up, not just for me, but for your fellow devs in the dev community, your future techies in the tech community, and those that are curious. Thank you for coming out and spending time with us. I hope you all had a fantastic time. I'm going to put on a little bit of outro music for all of you. But again, I'm going to be around to answer questions. So I'm going to wait here for you to post those in the chat for us to talk about and answer. And in the meantime, thank you all so much for coming. And I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. All right. Looks like we will see you all next time. Hopefully I'll see most of you next week and the week after while we continue our IBM Developer Tools series, our journey through all the IBM Cloud Developer Tools and pieces to building your dream application. See you all next week. Have a great night.